The Niners, the Raiders, Jets, and now Dallas Cowboys, your hometown team. How special is that?
All the people around me who have put so much like help and effort into like helping me get where I am, and just people who just mean a lot to me. So I'm super excited to be in Dallas and just, I'm just gonna be home.
You've talked about Kobe before in the past, but who else is on that list?
I always got a lot from my teammates. So I get Stanford, like Christian was like a big one. Even though he was my roommate and my teammate, but just the way that he worked and the dedication he put in, it was like a job for him in college. I would just like take things from him and I apply them to my own game. Like going into the league, like certain people that I learned from, like Eric Armstead was big for me. The way that he was so like cerebral about D-line and pass rush and like how he could see things differently. Even like these last years, like playing with Aaron Rodgers was super cool. And just to hear his side of the emotional side and the mental side and the physical side all put together, like with all his experience. So if you think, put down your pride, put down your ego, and there's so many guys you can learn from.
You got drafted 3rd overall. Walk me through what that feeling is like draft day.
It just didn't seem real. It was like, like what's going on? Like our draft was in Philly, so like we walked down the rocky steps. So it's like I remember like going down the steps, and like my heart's beating so fast. Like all the hard work I put in is paying off, and like I got to go live my dream.
That's so cool. You guys got to go down the rocky steps.
Yeah, it was sick.
You're in a movie right now. But I did recently see you in your Jedi robe attending the re-release of Revenge of the Sith in theaters. How was seeing that back in theaters? Also, what's your favorite Star Wars movie? Thirdly, who's your favorite Star Wars character?
Man, okay, dang.
I know, bro. Start off hard, Solly.
Okay, first of all, it was unbelievable seeing it back in theaters because that was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters. Like, it wasn't the first one I saw, but like, I think I was back in like 3rd grade or something like that. I mean, that, and it was so I just remember that one in theaters. So seeing it again on the big screen was amazing. Brought back a lot of feelings and just brought back that kid in me. So it was so fun to see that one in theaters. But my favorite movie, I mean, for me, it's from like, I don't know if I can say it's the best one, but it's my favorite one, episode 3. Revenge of the Sith, it just is. It's just like, I grew up on it. The dialogue between Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar is unbelievable. And Padme, it's like, seeing Yoda do his thing, and everything, like the Fall of the Jedi, it breaks my heart every time, but it's so fun watching everything just kind of happen and like see everything behind the scenes, everything happening live time. So I would say that's my favorite.
What color saber are you going with?
I got to go with my man Mace Windu. I got to go purple.
Yeah.
Did you hear? Sully, you probably know this because you're a big Star Wars guy. Didn't Samuel L. Jackson basically say, "Yeah, I'll be in the movie, but you got to give me a different color lightsaber"?
Yeah, he wanted to like have a different color, look unique or something. So it was like he basically asked for like a purple one or something like that. Because
iconic.
Yeah, it is iconic, and he's a very good Jedi.
He's a very good Jedi. All right. Okay. Then last Star Wars question. Who would you say he's your favorite character?
As much as I love him, like I am a big Yoda guy. Love Yoda. Love his wisdom. Like just love him. Love the whole series of Grogu. Love his species. Love like everything he's about. And like when he fights, he goes from using pain into being the most athletic acrobat in the world. So
talk about flipping a switch from off field to on field. Yoda is like the pinnacle of flipping the switch when it's time to go to battle. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, maybe we have some more Star Wars movie questions later, but let's we got a lot of stuff to ask you, Sully. So I think the important thing is we know each other because you played at Stanford with my brother Joey, okay, and so you guys had a great crew there back in your guys' Stanford days, back when Stanford was a big baller, one of the top programs in the country. You guys were top 10 every single year. Can you rewind it back to your decision why you decided to go play football at Stanford?
Yeah, for an 18-year-old kid, it wasn't the easiest decision. Like I was very fortunate. I could really go to a lot of different schools, like SEC, Big 10, Big 12. And, as looking back now, like Stanford should have been like the easiest choice, but like I was flirting with, playing the SEC, playing in the Big 10, going to the big crowds. something you always dreamed about growing up watching on TV with your dad. So that definitely kind of entertained me a little bit. But when I visited Stanford, it was just different. It was like, a different kind of feel. The campus was so beautiful. Everything was about us as people, not just football players. And that was really unique. And I just felt like it was going to set me up in a different kind of way in life. But also in those visits, I got to meet Joey, I got to meet Christian, I got to meet Keller, Casey Tucker, Harrison Phillips, all these other people. And it was like we already like kind of were forming into a family. And from that, the official visit, we did that, and then I was kind of going back and forth. Like didn't really know. My parents were really pushing me to go to Stanford. They're like, kind of like, what are you doing? It's an obvious choice. And then Christian was pushing me pretty hard. So it came to be the easy choice, and I was like, there's no better decision than to set myself up as a human being, not just a football player, and go to Stanford, and ended up being one of the best decisions of my life. So
yeah. I mean, now, looking back now at a 29, 30-year-old, how old are you? 29 right now?
29, yes, sir.
Now it seems like, of course, you go to Stanford. When you're 18 years old, it's like, playing in those big SEC stadiums.
Yeah.
Scott,
you and Christian were friends prior to you even signing up with Stanford?
Well, basically, I think we met at the official visit to Stanford, but we also played in the Army All-American game together. So like we got to know each other there, got to know each other on the official visit. And actually I took a ski trip to Colorado as a senior because I was like, I'm not going to be able to ski again, especially if I go play in the NFL after Stanford. And it was actually my last time skiing.
I haven't skied now in 11 years.
Yeah, so it's been a long time. But we drove to Christian's house, my mom and I, and hung out with Lisa, Christian, and the fam. So Mom got to hang out with him one time before we even all went to school. So it was so I got to know him a little bit more just because of the Army All-American game recruiting process. And yeah,
man, you guys had such a great crew at Stanford. Like not only the guys, but like the families around. I remember going down to. I loved going to your guys' games just because we always could hang out with the families, like your family, Christian's family, Keller's family. Okay, speaking of then Stanford, obviously there's a lot of great benefits from going to Stanford, one of the best universities in the world. So here's my question. What was one of your favorite things about Stanford, and what was one of your least favorite things about going to Stanford, or the hardest things about going to Stanford?
Okay, I would say my favorite thing about Stanford was, obviously it was like my crew, like my roommates, like Joey, Christian, CJ, Keller, Casey, all the guys on the football team. Like that was my favorite thing, but I'm going to keep that like just a little bit outside of football. I just talk about Stanford directly. It was probably some people there. Like it wasn't like, it felt like everyone was kind of like pushing each other. Like it wasn't like always a competition. Like everyone was trying to like, no one was too prideful. I felt like everyone was trying to learn from each other. This person was doing this person was doing that. And you're just trying to like, everyone's trying to pickpocket from each person just to be their best self. It wasn't like, oh, he's doing this, I'm gonna hate on him. It's like, no, I'm going to learn from him and we're gonna maybe do something together one day. Or so even though I always felt like I was behind academically because, maybe I wasn't as smart as some of these people, but I feel like they kind of like pushed me along, or they kind of helped me feel like I belonged there, and made me feel like, I was smart enough to be there. So I thought that was a really cool thing about Stanford. And then my least favorite thing about Stanford was probably some of the dining halls.
Really?
I know you probably heard from Joey just like how like freshman year we were like struggling for food and like sneaking in the dining hall like to get some like chicken breast, and the chicken breast you can barely cut, like stuff like that.
Oh, I do remember that actually. Now that you say that, I remember Joey always complaining about that. It's like, you guys are on full scholarship, so you should be getting all this food and stuff. And my parents had to send him down money so he could like go get Chipotle and get other food. That was edible.
Joey was like killing Quiznos.
Oh, damn. R.I.P. Quiznos. Quiznos is like, at least on the West Coast, we only have one left. Quiznos is great. Okay. Scott, you guys had pretty good dining halls at Yale. I remember when I visited you. You guys had a lot of good options.
Yeah, we had a number of really good ones, and we were able to get whatever we wanted, which was a huge benefit, but I wouldn't say the quality was like top notch, right? So I definitely feel you on that, Sally. But speaking of that, going to such a prestigious university like that and playing ball and all of the time commitments that go into playing ball, like at that top level, how did you go about your like mental compartmentalization in the academic world and then at such a high level of football? Like, how did you do that personally?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. At times it was definitely hard because, like, you're working so hard to be like, the best football player in the world, but then also like you have this grueling schedule of classes and everything. So, and you're trying to like, if you fought at Stanford, if you put too much into one, like it was hard to like catch up on the other. Like, you couldn't like, slack off and not study for a test. You couldn't wait and write a paper the day before the paper was due. So it was like you had to find the balance, and that was really hard for me my freshman year. Like I remember my first quarter, I really struggled academically, and I had to like get with like we had a class called PAE, and it was like student athlete mentors, and I had to really get with my guy his name was Sean. I'm still friends with him to this day, and he had to teach me how to study. He had to teach me how to like balance things, and like like okay, if you're gonna go get extra work, you have to be more productive during class, or to actually like go to office hours and do these things, like things I was scared to do. I was scared to go to office hours. I was scared to do. To put myself out there and seem like I wasn't as smart because I already felt like I was outcast as a football player. Yeah. So, it was something I had to learn, and I learned it really my winter quarter and spring quarter freshman year. And from then, like I kind of got in the flow of balancing, being able to make myself the best football player and also like really work hard as a student and be the best student I could be and challenge myself, take different classes and, not be afraid to, explore like, and, try a different sector class or something like that. So, yeah.
Sully, was there a favorite class, any class that jumps out to you that was memorable to you at Stanford?
Yeah. I always say it was a sociology class. It was like the tradition of American families. And it just really kind of opened my eye up a lot to like things I didn't know about, like the history of families, the age of independence, like kids going to school back in the day, and how it like kind of gave them a whole different, like, this was a time in their life where they like got different views from their parents, where they tried different religions, where they like, did different family norms, into like, a lot of like, history of like, women getting their own job, women finally being able to work and getting away from the family. It was like, and a lot of things about divorce and marriage and cohabiting. It was a really interesting class. It was stuff I never thought about and stuff I never like really knew stuff about. And, made me really interested in people, and the professor was really cool. So yeah, I would say that was probably my favorite class.
Yeah. That's always one of the coolest things is like getting classes where you just had no idea about certain things and different perspectives. So I have a couple of those. All right. Then on the football field, like we said, you guys were a powerhouse. I mean, a few years before, Stanford was kind of struggling. Then Jim Harbaugh came, and then Coach Shaw came after that. You guys were in the Coach Shaw era, and I always remember really admiring it from the outside, at least, kind of the culture it seemed like you guys had. I mean, like the way that you guys played football was so tough nose. Can you speak a little bit to the culture that you guys had within the football team at Stanford during that time?
Yeah, we had a really cool culture. I feel like going back. Our team was super close. In high school, everyone said there'd never be football like high school football again, like pure. But I felt like Stanford was extremely pure for us because it was like a brotherhood. Like we all loved each other. We all pushed each other. No one was bigger than anybody. Like everyone was treated the same. Like I thought that was a really cool thing. Like everyone held each other accountable. Like you could have a walk-on hold you accountable if you were a starter. Like no one was bigger than the team. I think that all started with Shannon Turley, our strength coach. He was amazing. And we always called him like he was more of a coach, like student strength coach. He was like always pushing us like philosophy, psychology, like finding ways to like really get us to grasp like how important the team is, how important like dedication is, and that no one is bigger than the team, and all these things that he would teach us, and everyone would buy in. And it was through like these workouts where it would be like a draining mental workout, but you had to find a way to like push through with the team. Like we would do things like take the rope, we would push a gate around campus, and like but at the end of these workouts, you felt closer to the team, and then that carried over into football. Like, it was like we were these hard-nosed, tough people. Like, it was like intellectual brutality, but it was a real thing to us. Like, we really like bought into that, and people thought we were probably these nerds who were like soft and whatever, but we were doing some really hard stuff, and we were doing it every day. And like, we really didn't care what you thought. We were going to come out and play that way, and I thought it was super cool. It was such an awesome team and experience to be a part of. Like, Coach Charlie really had us believing in the things he was teaching us. And the cool thing was everyone on the team believed it. And we turned it into our own thing, and it was really like a family.
I remember Joey raving about Turley as well. Yeah. And that's funny, Sally, because Scott and I, we were talking the other day about like how big of an impact a strength coach can have on the actual culture of a football team. I mean, it seems like Turley had a huge one there for you guys, right?
I mean, it really was huge. Like, he was a person, like, we wanted his approval. Like, it was, all right, I don't want to disappoint Coach Turley. I want, he's like, he really was, he really was special to us. Like, we really thought he was the engine to our team. It was like just really cool how he was able to create a program like that, where we got bigger, faster, stronger, more explosive, and believed in his philosophies that way, but also mentally. I think that was the most impressive thing, like how he really cultivated our minds to believe like these things, like the law of the chain, like the price, never stays the same; it always gets higher. Like things, and we always like just bought into that.
As Nick mentioned right there, we were talking about how the depth of the relationship with a strength coach is it's different than say with a coach. That's not to say you don't have a great connection with a coach and everything, but exactly like you said, there's a disappointment level that you never want to reach with your strength coach because of that bond and everything. That's really cool.
You always want their approval. So you mentioned it, the take the rope. Can you explain what that is for the lay person?
Yeah. So at Stanford, we had this thing called take the rope, and it was like this very thick rope, and you were behind like a line. And you had probably about 10 to 15 of your teammates on the other side, and you had to like continuously keep pulling and pulling. And like, it was probably like a minimum 10-minute thing. And you're just like pulling and you're nonstop. And so like, it's mentally and physically one of the harder workouts that we ever do. But it's really just like to take the rope. It's like a continuous fight throughout the season, and a continuous fight throughout like grinding for football, like, just don't stop, one hand over another, don't stop, one hand over the other. And it seems like a stupid workout, and in reality it probably is not the smartest, but it was more of like it was our thing. It was like this mental like thing that like, it was like basically your initiation to the team, because this is where you showed like how hard you worked, and if you really, even if you did work hard, how hard you could work when things were tough, and if you keep going when they were tough. Like, if your fingers started to like blister, could you keep going? If like, if your hamstring is giving out, could you keep going? Could you just keep putting one hand over the other and keep fighting? And it's really, you saw how bad guys wanted it, and that was the thing that we loved about it.
That is so cool. I was going to say, I remember Joey sending pictures back home of his hands just bloodied up. First of all, with like no context, we're like, Joey, what happened? He's like,
no context is hilarious. It's just bloody fingers.
It's like, what are they doing down there, dude? So that's like super, super impressive, super, super inspiring. Like, I don't know, that just gasses me up.
Who are those guys that you looked after? I know you've talked about Kobe before in the past, but who else is on that list where you're like, hey man, that guy had an athletic mental, just vice grip on competition, and I want to emulate that and then take it to the next level. Who are those dudes for you?
I think the beautiful thing about sports is that there's so many guys you can like take things from, and like, if you like put down your pride, put down your ego, and just learn from so many of your people around you, I think like there's so many guys you can learn from their like mentality. Like, so like you said, Kobe for one, I thought that he was way ahead of his time, like with the mental, physical component of like, being present, not, being emotional, and finding a way to get to that point where you can just be in zen and be free. And just like kind of be one with the sport, and not like be overthinking too much, and not be like trying to get angry and hyped up, but just like being like letting letting you be you and seeing things for what they are. And I thought that like, that I really took a lot of the mental components from Kobe. But from that, like just like growing up, like my dad was always on me. Like he was always like, whatever you do, like be the best you. And like it was always just like whatever it is, whatever you do, just be the best you. And he was always on me, like making sure that I was just like pushing myself to be the best Solomon, and that was something that always was instilled in me from early on. And then like just going through, like I always got a lot from my teammates. So I get Stanford, like Christian was like a big one for me. And even though he was my roommate and my teammate, but just the way that he worked and the dedication he put in, it was like a job for him in college. Like just the way that he already had treatment people lined up, how he was already like organizing his extra work. And so like I would just like take things from him and apply it to my own game. And then like going into the league, like certain people that I learned from, like Eric Armstead was big for me. Just like the way that he was so like cerebral about D-line and pass rush, and like how he could see things differently, how he had hired an extra D-line coach to help him with film and help him with technique. And then like even like these last years, like playing with Aaron Rodgers was super cool. And just to hear his side of the emotional side and the mental side and the physical side all put together, like with all his experience. So I'm definitely a bunch of guys I've learned from, whether I play with them or not. Like Kobe's definitely one that I really lean on for like YouTube videos and like, like looking at all his old film and stuff. And because he did a lot of like public speaking about his mentality, and like it's really cool to watch and go back and just like listen to it and see how methodical he was about it, how much work he put into it, and how it was like a lot of like meditation. It was a lot of breathing. It was a lot of acceptance, like, a lot of radical acceptance theory stuff. And so just a bunch of different people I've kind of like put together, like, and taken from. And I'm always trying to do that. Kobe was talking about being curious, never like feel like you have it all, always ask questions, always learn from people. And so that's what I'm still trying to do. Like year 9 of my career, so still learn from those around me.
Yeah, man. So I mean, those are there's a couple of those that I want to dive into a little bit more, but you just mentioned it. Going into year 9 of the NFL. I just do want to walk it back because we just had the NFL draft, and obviously you got drafted 3rd overall back in was that 2017? Was that you guys? 2017. Can you walk me through what that feeling is like draft day and kind of that whole process, and just obviously childhood dream coming true?
Yeah, no, draft day was just an incredible time. Like you dream of this moment for so long, you work so hard for it, and then you're there at the draft, you're getting interviewed, you're in the green room. It just didn't seem real. It was like, like what's going on? Like, am I really about to get drafted? My dreams really about to come true? And then your name gets called, and like you hug your parents, hug your family, and you go down the step. Our draft was in Philly, so like we walked down the Rocky Steps. So it's like I remember like going down the steps, and like my heart's beating so fast, like like it's just like all the hard work I put in is paying off, and like I got to go live my dream. But one of the coolest opportunities I've had, and it was like such a sacred moment for me and my family. Looking back on it, and I thought it was really, really special.
Yeah, man, dude, that's so cool. You guys got to go down the Rocky Steps.
Yeah, it was sick.
You're in a movie right now. Eye of the Tiger playing. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
So you enter into the NFL. You're meeting up with a team. You're starting to do workouts and everything like that with the organization and the group of dudes. What was that one moment when you stepped foot on the field where you were like, "Oh, this isn't college anymore"? Like, do you remember that moment? And it was just like, "All right, it's time to get to work. It's time to step it up."
Yeah. I think we were doing one-on-ones, and I think I was going against Trent Brown. And if you don't know, Trent Brown's like 6'8", 360 pounds. He's massive, and he's super light on his feet. I remember I thought I had close some good distance on him, and like I was going to be able to make a move on him. And I remember his arm just reached out. He just kind of stunned and buckled me. And I was like, golly, I thought I had like some separation here. And it was just like it was all over. It was like so. Like I think that was definitely the moment where I was like, oh wow, these guys are different.
Yeah.
You thought there's so go like you've been with the Niners, the Raiders, Jets, and now with the Dallas Cowboys. Growing up in Texas, first of all, how special is that? Is that a special thing for you to be playing kind of your hometown team?
Oh, it's super special to me, and my family. Just being able to be back here in Dallas. Growing up here. playing high school football here and then like coming back here and playing, it means a lot to me, it's being able to like be home, represent my hometown and all the people around me who have put so much like help and effort into like helping me get where I am, and just people who just mean a lot to me. So just to be here just means a lot, and I'm super excited to be in Dallas and just I'm just gonna be home, which is like such a special feeling. I haven't been able to be home in so long, so it's awesome.
Dude, that is so cool. So staying with this, like year 9, the people like to say NFL stands for not for long. And you're like, you're going now into year 9 and year 10. What is the key to longevity in playing in this league, especially at a really violent position like D line? Like I would say both physically and mentally, the keys to longevity in this league.
Yeah, no, it's a great question because it is not for long. Like it is this goes by quick, and I'm very fortunate to play 9 years, to get to play 9 years, and it's taken a lot of work mentally and physically. So I think like the first thing to do to be able to last 9 years, you have to take care of your body. Your vets will tell you when you come in, but it's like it doesn't start happening until you actually practice it. But like, making sure like you sauna, you stretch, you eat right, you drink enough water, you're taking the right supplements, making sure like, you find a trainer who's actually going to take care of your body and push at the same time. All these different things that kind of like, help take care of your body, and all the foot contacts you put in, all the hits you put in, all the workouts you put in, you have to like account for everything throughout the whole year. Because you're going to have certain injuries. You might have surgeries. out of year 2020, I had 4 surgeries, and you have to find a way to adjust the rest of your career to train a certain way to make sure that like, hey, like I had a left ACL, I had a left labrum. Now I have to like train differently. How do I like, how do I heal from these, asymmetries? How do I make sure that everything's feeling the right way it's supposed to go? Like, so I think the first thing is like being, a professional with your body first. And then like, not only like, being, making sure you're always working on your game, putting in extra work, finding a way to become a better defensive tackle, defensive end, whatever it is, like making sure like you're always excelling at that. I feel like that's the given, but like the mental part is probably the hardest part, because it is like a nonstop like thing. Like being an NFL player, like I know there's a lot of guys who like it may seem like they're all fine, but like every year it's the pressure's on. Like it is a production league. It is based off like what you put in, and if you don't put the production in, like your career could be gone the next year, especially if you have an injury. So like the mental pressure of like always having to perform can be draining. So you have to learn how to manage that. You have to learn whether that you have a sports psychologist, you have a therapist, whatever it is. You have to learn how to be able to handle the pressure and not let yourself carry it on your shoulders all the time. How to be present with it. How to like accept the pressure and be like, okay, I feel this. It's okay. It's part of life, but I'm going to go on and just work hard and control things I can control. And not look at the pressure as life or death either, because that will drain you out. If you look at it as like, I have to perform so bad this year, or this is going to happen, that's going to probably drain you out. So it's like being able to handle the pressure of it as well, and all the mental side of like the moving all the time, not having a steady home, not having job stability, not really having time to be a human being sometimes, just you have to be able to you have to learn how to manage all that, like, and be able to balance it, how to know when, okay, I'm about to burn out in probably 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, I need to go like have like a little reset, whether, I go camping, whether I go just hang out with my family, whether I go somewhere with my friends, stuff like that. You have to learn how to plan these things out and manage the schedule, manage the load, manage the pressure, and so you can be the best you.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I mean, that perspective is incredible. How do you, not to add another layer to it all, because I feel like you covered a lot of the professional athlete experience, but how do you add or how do you handle the fame that comes along with the fact that, look, you were 3rd overall pick, man, like that's nuts and awesome. And then on top of it, you're a known figure out there in the public. Is that also an element that is really difficult to kind of compartmentalize as you're speaking to right here?
It was always like something that I never tried to like really like give into. Like I always try to treat myself as a normal person, like, that, I always will like, people don't know who I am and stuff like that. But then, like, sometimes people do end up knowing who you are, but you do have to conduct yourself differently. You have like people know who you are. You're representing a whole billion-dollar organization. You're representing your family. You have that name on the back of your plate, so you do have to operate differently because like now everyone has their phones out. Everyone, people will treat you as a point of interest. So you have to like understand safety things, security things. You have to understand, like, making sure you're always conducting yourself like you're on camera, being yourself completely, but just making sure like you were representing the people that you love the right way. So that part of it was different. Like, people actually like caring about who I like, not who I was, but what I was, like caring about what I was doing. And that was different. And like understanding that early on in my career was important just so, people are young and people like do things and people record people and all this kind of stuff. So like you have to understand that component of it for sure.
Yeah. Kind of carrying off that. I mean, with the platform that kind of comes with playing in the NFL, I mean, you've done a really good thing with your platform, and maybe this would be a good time to mention your foundation, the defensive line, which you've done such an amazing job with. Man, you've been now nominated for NFL Man of the Year 3 years in a row from the work that you've been doing with that foundation. Can you just speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So I appreciate that. Then, so my family and I, we started the defensive line. In honor of my sister Ella, who died by suicide in 2018. And, we were kind of like, we were completely shocked by, my sister dying, and especially dying by suicide. And even though my mom had talked about mental health growing up and she like, got Ella the help she needed, we were still thrown in this world of mental health and didn't know where to go. We didn't know how to talk about it. We didn't know how to move forward with Ella's death. And it was something that like people didn't talk about either. Like people didn't know how to talk about my sister dying by suicide. People didn't know how to make mental health a conversation, even though that it needed to be the conversation. And it kind of made my family feel alone. It made like us feel like we couldn't talk about it. We didn't know how to talk about it. And so we definitely saw early on there was a huge problem with mental health in our society and in our world. There's a stigma around it where people don't even feel comfortable enough to ask certain questions, or they don't feel comfortable enough to talk about the situation. They could talk about my sister dying, but not dying by suicide. Right. And even for me, like growing up in the locker room, like talking about like, you have to be a man, you have to be tough, men don't cry, mental health is a feeling, all that kind of talk, like real rubbed on it. Me being in that world, like I continued with that mentality after my sister died by suicide. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to take care of all these feelings that I'm feeling right now, all these emotions that are coming up, depression, of anxiety, guilt, of grief, trauma, all these things that were coming up. And I would push them down and boil them. And then so like it got to a point where like, I got to a dark place and I needed help. And, so I ended up going to therapy. And that really helped me find the joy in life again and want to live again and want to be here again. And, from that, we were like, me and my family, like we have to do something. And so in honor of my sister, we started the defensive line, where our mission is to end the epidemic of youth suicide, especially for young people of color, by transforming the way we communicate and connect with mental health. And the way we're doing this is we're going into schools, businesses, collegiate sports programs, and we're teaching any mentor of youth how to handle like a mental health environment, how to make the mental health environment the best for their student athletes, for their coworkers, for just honestly everyone around them. We're teaching them language. We're teaching them, crisis action plans. So no situation seems too big or stressful. They know how to handle anything that comes up, connecting them to resources in the area. So like they can know how to take their student athletes, their employees, their students to certain places if they need to, or recommend them to go, so they don't feel like all the pressure's on them to fix anything. But ultimately, like just teach them how to conduct a healthy mental health environment, how to ask the right questions, how to be present, how to create safe places. And we've been doing this for close to 4 years now. And it's been, super cool. We've got to talk at like, some big universities like Stanford, Baylor. My parents have been all over the country nonstop. I've been doing a lot of speaking opportunities myself, like, at different certain foundations, giving keynote speeches, like all these kind of things, which has been really cool. And we've been able to impact a lot of people. But ultimately we're just trying to make sure that everyone knows how to handle these conversations. Everyone knows how to talk about this, because it's inevitable. We're all going to go through mental health at some point in our life. And so we have to know how to talk about it. We have to be comfortable talking about it. We have to know that it's okay to have these conversations, because these are the small conversations that keep people here and save people's lives. So it's been super fun doing the work, super hard doing the work, but it's been a good time.
Dude, man, I love that so much. I think it's so admirable what you guys are doing. We've had a couple people in our family die by suicide as well, and it's such a devastating thing. So for you to like turn that pain into something, positive and having a positive effect on people, I think it's beautiful, man. Truly, it's beautiful. And I did a little stalking. I think you said one time that in Ella's Twitter bio once, she had this quote that said, "If you admire somebody, go ahead and tell them, because people never get the flowers, or they can still smell it." And dude, I admire you. I admire your family, what you guys are doing, man. Because that's just it's like also coming from a guy like you, who's like this big, huge NFL football player, Jack. He's like, oh, this guy is like, everything's totally fine for this guy, and he can handle it. It's like, so coming from a guy like you, it just hits especially hard, man. So I just appreciate that, everything that you guys are doing. So I think part of like all this stuff and like kind of taking care of yourself is, especially as an athlete, is having a life outside of sports also. I think that's super important. And I think that you've got some interests outside of sports as well. I've seen on Instagram some very delicious looking sourdough breads, I believe. Can you tell us a little bit about what some of your interests are outside of football and sports?
Definitely, yeah. So I mean, like you guys know, like I feel like I'm a little nerd, like with the Star Wars stuff. And, like me and Joey and like and Christian and Casey, all of them, we really got into like all that Star Wars stuff, and like at Stanford, which is fun. But I mean, there's just a lot of things like I just like love growing up. Like I love cooking, I love baking, and it was like stuff that like I just cared about. So a couple years ago, I started making sourdough bread. And it was just something that I just kind of like fell in love with the process of it. Like the bread meant a lot to me, because even though that's weird to say, because like sourdough bread is so like such a different process. It takes time. It's not that hard, but it takes time. It's how you feel and getting your feel for the dough. But I related a lot of sourdough to life, because like with sourdough, you don't just follow a recipe, you have a feel for it. And I kind of put that onto the field, because like, there's not just one way something looks. There's not one way that like you just do something. Like even though the bread may look the same every time, or it may be the final result, there's like, you have to put your own feel into things. And so like I kind of related sourdough to life, and like sourdough became like big thing for me. So like just ended up loving it. But yeah, so like started making sourdough. And yeah, it was the bread's amazing. It's a mental health like recovery process for me, and I kind of like made this relation between life and sourdough.
It sounds like it's an incredibly cathartic experience just going through that process. But piggybacking off of the defensive line, like I noticed, like even on your Instagram here, you're doing youth camps. Is that something that you're also just dumping time into? Hey, like let's develop the kids in gameplay and mentality. Is that a passion of yours as well?
Yeah. So it's my fourth free football camp that I'm doing in Coppell. It's something that I love to do. Just getting the kids together. Having like just teaching them football stuff and like making them feel like really special and fun. Have like snow cones, slip and slide, make it a big kind of event. But also like I talk mental health with them, because I feel like at a young age we're afraid to talk to our kids about it. But it's important for them to know mental health, and to know that it's something that they're going to talk about, because kids get it, like especially on social media now, they get affected earlier, and like they have these feelings earlier, and they're exposed to them earlier. So it's important for them to know how to have these conversations, talk these things about, and I think that's just really important. So talking about mental health, having fun, teaching them football, and just getting the community together.
I mean, you're doing a ton, Sully. I get just random questions. I totally forgot that you grew up, or not, I won't say grew up, but you spent 5 years in Australia as a child. That is very, very cool. Can you talk about that? Why were you guys living in Australia? How was that experience? Is there anything that kind of still sticks with you, your personality or your taste, or what you like from your time in Australia?
Yeah, no. So it was my dad's job. He was with Procter & Gamble at the time, and he was in like international sales manager, and they had him in Australia. So my family, when I was from age 2 to age 7, almost 8, I think we moved on my 8th birthday. I think, yes, yeah, we did. So spend that time in Australia. And we were in Sydney, in an area called Cremorne, and it was just it was a super cool experience. I think it really opened up my sister and I's perspective growing up, like being able to be in a different country and see a different like kind of outlook on life, a different like kind of culture. And I just thought that was really special. So doing that, trying different food, different way of life, the metric system, school set up a different way. I just think it kind of really broadened our perspective to know that there's so much more out there. But I just kind of I love Australia so much, love that area. Try to go back when I can. Haven't been back since I think 2018, but it's just such a beautiful place. The people there are great, the food there is great, and I can't wait to go back soon. But definitely like have a lot of Australia in my heart.
I remember you and I were talking about that when you were in Germany, when we were talking about like just living in a different country for however long it is. It just like totally broadens your perspective. Your world like totally differently, man. It's like it's hard to know that you're gonna feel like that until you experience it. Scott, sorry I stepped on you. What you got?
No, you're all good. I was going to ask if you ever went to one of the shows at the Opera House or anything like that, and if that's where the bug of creative or expression kind of bit you, because obviously there's the famous Broadway scene, the charcuterie scene coming out of Hard Knocks and everything like that, and then you took the dudes to the show and everything like that. Was that started at a young age, and do you think that had an influence?
I'm not 100% sure if I went to the Opera House, or I know my parents did for sure. I know they definitely probably saw a show there or something, but I don't know if I did. But my parents definitely instilled us at a young age, like art and theater. Because we moved to Connecticut and we became friends with like this actor who like gave me and my sister lessons in acting, and we started doing shows. Like we were part of the community shows at Stanford, Connecticut. We moved back from Australia, and then we went to Texas. And the first thing my parents signed me up for was a theater club. So stuff like that. So like, it was like, those are things that like we did. And it kind of made me fall in love with like, art, being able to express your emotions. Like I was always a super hyper kid and didn't know how to put my emotions in places. And, theater really helped me with that, because I got to express myself. I got to like be creative with, art, and like put myself in a different perspective and act in a different way. And so, I just fell in love with the storytelling of it. Like, you're telling a story, you're making people believe something that's not real, and that is like was really cool to me.
So you're a Renaissance man. I didn't know you dabbled even in the theater world, the acting world. Also, when you were in New York, did you ever go to plays on Broadway?
Oh yeah, I went all the time. I went to probably like 12 different plays. Like it was
okay. All right. Well, you have a favorite that you saw?
Yeah.
There's so many good ones. Recently, The Outsiders was one of my favorites recently. Hamilton's obviously a fave. MJ the Musical was probably the one I've seen the most. I've seen that one 6 times. There's Gypsy. My girlfriend and I went to go see Gypsy before we left, like as like a goodbye, like New York trip. When we moved back to Texas, we saw Gypsy, and that was super good. I'm trying to think what else recently. Dang, I'm blanking on the name. It won a bunch of Tony Awards. Damn. I'll think about it. But there's so many of the plays. They're so good. It's so much fun to watch.
Live theater is absolutely incredible to see in person. I think like one of the most underrated things to see in person. I got one more question for Sally, but I'll save it, Scott, unless you got another one.
Yeah, I just have one, and it's probably coupled two within the singular one. So you're going up against the best of the best, if we talked about here. As a defensive end, defensive lineman, who's the best hands offensive lineman you've gone up against, and best footwork dude?
I would say probably the best. I got a couple guys. Best overall, I played against Zach Martin. He just retired from the Cowboys. Dude, just crazy strength, crazy athleticism. His knowledge was wild on the field, but like he would always be able to mix up his sets. His hands were always perfect. His feet was always great. If you thought you had him on power, he would anchor really quick. But just like I think one of his stats is that he has more all pros or Pro Bowls than holding penalties in the league.
Yes.
It's like it's crazy. Like he's definitely the best offensive lineman I played against. And then recently, a favorite from mine was at the Jets was Elijah Vera Tucker. He was extremely athletic, extremely strong. Just a fun guy to go against. Made me better every day. But like, AVT was just like, a powerhouse, and it's crazy. He played in one season, he played left guard, left tackle, right tackle, and he graded out at 90% at all three of them. And in the NFL, that doesn't happen. Like, and so he's just a beast.
Damn, man. That Zach Martin stat is so. I remember seeing that a while back. I was like, this is a typo. Turned out it's real. Crazy. All right, Sally. My last question is: you got to play in the Super Bowl. I think was it 2020 with the Niners. I actually got to go. Is when Joey was on the practice squad.
Yeah.
So Amy, Andy, and I, we got to go to Miami and go to some of your guys' like team parties and stuff. It was really, really cool. But can you just talk a little bit about the experience of playing in the Super Bowl? Kind of what that's like, how it's different that week, how it's different from obviously other games, and just that whole experience.
Yeah, no, that was like such a cool experience. It's like, and that was like kind of like a catalyst for me to like love the game.
Yeah.
Even more than I already did. Like being in that environment, being able to go to the pinnacle of all sports, the Super Bowl. It was just so super cool. Like, just not even just past the lights and the camera. It was just the energy, this feeling there. It was like working so hard through camp, through a 16-game season, through 3 playoff games and a bye week. Like that's like a 24-week span of like getting to one place. Like all the dedication and stuff it took to get there, like was so worth it. And it just like I just loved being at the Super Bowl. And but just like obviously losing sucks, but it was just like such an amazing time. And me and Joey talk about it, like how cool it was like to be college teammates, best friends, roommates, and then play in the Super Bowl together. Like was like just awesome. But so it was such a fun time, and definitely like something I'm itching to get back towards. Like I want to play back there so bad. I want to win a ring so bad, but definitely the goal. But it was a super cool experience.
Yeah, that was awesome. Hey, Cowboys this year. Let's go. Get them up. Let's go, Cowboys. All right, there we have it. Solomon Thomas. Solly, dude, thank you so much for doing this, man. It was so fun talking to you.
Man, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much.
With you, man. All right, bro. Thanks so much, and good luck this season, brother.
All right, appreciate you, Nick. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Later, Solly. See you, bro.